Hi, welcome to Believe in Clemson Football. I'm Will Vandervoort. Appreciate you guys joining us tonight. Alex Dodd, he'll be joining us here in just a second. He's getting his thing set up right now and getting online as we speak. But appreciate you guys being here with us. We got a jam-packed show tonight. Former Clemson legend and the guy who made not even probably, it is the greatest catch in Clemson, South Carolina history. Jerry Butler is joining us on the show here in about 15 minutes. So you want to stay tuned for that. If you have any comments or questions to ask Jerry, please leave it in our comments section there on YouTube and Facebook, and we'll definitely be able to see it and get that to you guys. Got a big show, as I mentioned tonight. We're going to kind of talk about the rivalry itself, explain to you why my headline is called Clemson-Carolina, a rivalry born out of hate. I'm going to explain what that means. But, we also got a bunch of other things we're going to talk about. As I mentioned, Jerry Butler coming. We're going to talk about the series as itself and then what this game itself means. A college football playoff berth is on the line. And then some other things as it relates to the Clemson-Carolina rivalry, our favorite memories. I want to hear your favorite memories from the rivalry as well. And then also we'll do a little bit of scoreboard watching. If you know you should know what I mean if you've been following the Tigers and know what the situation is this coming week in regards to the ACC championship. Before we do all that, though, I want to go ahead and give a shout out to our sponsors. The Clemson Insider, the most complete coverage of Clemson athletics and recruiting. Go on over to the ClemsonInsider.com and check out Robert and the guys over there, including myself. So we got you all set for this week's game against the Gamecocks, as well as some interesting comments Dabo Swinney had to say today regarding NIL and the revenue sharing and Clemson's new adventure and what they're going to do with IPTAY. I'm sure some of you guys may have questions on that. That's over on the Clemson Insider. We kind of break it down and explain it. We talk about Dabo Swinney as well. We got Graham Neff's letter to IPTAY on there. So a lot of information over there. Also recruiting. National Signing Day, if you don't know, is next Wednesday. They moved it up this year so that National Signing Day will come before they open the transfer portal. That way it keeps coaches from basically saying, we're going to sign you to a kid. And then when somebody jumps in the portal, like, oh, we want to go get that guy, and they take the scholarship away from the kid that was supposed to get it on signing day. This is kind of taking care of the high school kid and making sure they're getting the scholarship that they deserve. You go on over to the website, check it out at the Clemson Insider, the most complete coverage of Clemson athletics and recruiting. Like I said, we got everything covered over there and everything about this game. Also over at the Clemson Insider, right now, this just happened. Clemson basketball beats Penn State to win the Sunshine Slam tournament. A big win for the Tigers, no doubt, as they improved to, I believe, 6-1 now on the season. And now they bet to bring home a trophy. And that's pretty cool. Anytime you can bring home a trophy. The Tigers beat Penn State today 75-67. The Clemson was led by, once again, Ian Shefflin. 18 points, 13 rebounds, 8 assists. This is after he had 16 points, 12 rebounds, and 5 assists in yesterday's win over the San Francisco Dons. So also Chauncey Wiggins, 14 points on 6 of 10 shooting, including 2 for 4 from three-point range. Chase Hunter scored 17 points. He was 3 of 6 from downtown and was 6 of 7 at the foul line. He also had 5 rebounds and 4 assists for the Tigers. So Clemson improves to 6-1 on the season. And they bring home a championship trophy with them as they improve with a 75-67 victory over the Penn State Nittany Lions, the previously undefeated Penn State Nittany Lions. So this is a big win for Clemson. And there's the man with the 10-gallon hat, Alex Dodd, joining us wearing a black outfit for Clemson-Carolina week. I don't think he thought about his choice.
This is a Navy shirt. This is a Navy shirt.
It looks black to me. Guys in the comments, you tell Alex if I'm not colorblind. I'm telling you, it's black. It at least looks black on this.
Navy. It's Navy. It's just dark in here because it gets dark so dang early now.
Yeah. But, okay. Maybe
I guess I kind of look like I'm in Penn State colors, but didn't help the Nittany Lions. They were held 29 points under their season average, and every Clemson basketball team that has made the NCAA tournament has won a holiday tournament. So good sign for the Tigers, and what looks like it's going to be a quad one win when everything's said and done for the Tigers.
I think maybe the last 2 wins are going to be quad one wins, but I think San Francisco Dons is going to be a be a basketball tournament team as well. So, and then though you lost the game, you did go on the road and play at Boise State. And as we know, in the NCAA basketball committee, they award you for losing games to teams that are in quad ones and quad twos. So Clemson went on the road and lost, and will probably get credit for losing a game. That's how it works, right?
This is for Corey and Charles. I'm gonna make a hat change real quick. I'll be right back.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Corey and Charles. We appreciate you guys, getting on to Alex and let him know that he is not a traitor. I can tell you, Alex is not a traitor. Alex is there. It is a white hat, much better, Alex. There you go.
I got to go with
don't know Alex's regular job. Alex's regular job. He's a writer for the Alex. What is it? National Rodeo Association. What's the special term?
Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association.
Yes,
but
which is the national one.
rodeo.
Yeah, pro rodeo. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's what Alex does. He's the writer he's one of their many writers they have out there, and he does a great job. And so a Clemson grad. And
Corey, I promise you, I wasn't wearing a black hat to rep the Gamecocks. I promise.
Now it's easier to see that that's navy blue because the white is bouncing off of it. So it makes it now you can tell it's navy blue. The black was causing it to look black. And so so there we go. We're all straight guys. Thanks for getting on to Alex. Yeah, and I see Charles Gamble's already come in with his show prediction. Says 27-13 Clemson. If y'all guys got show predictions, please let us know what you think. We'll throw them up on here, and we'll give you ours, obviously, at the end of the show as well. As I mentioned, we got a lot to go. Lots happening. Alex, great to see Brad Brownell get the win there and get Clemson going. There's no doubt for that, right?
Oh, no, absolutely. And you can see already, when you have a team that has transfers, especially in basketball, especially when you run Brad Brownell's, kind of complicated motion system, it takes a while for teams to settle in. And you've really seen this Clemson team, I think, in this tournament grow up a little bit. I mean, you played 2 games that feel like NCAA tournament games. And from the second half yesterday through the entire game today, they look like a tournament team, and they look like a team that's going to really compete in the ACC and, hopefully can do some things that Clemson basketball teams have never done. So this team definitely has the capability of it. Shefflin, unbelievable. I mean, if you thought he could, he was going to look worse without PJ Hall, I think he's kind of dispelled that doubt. And the biggest guys that have impressed me are probably Dylan Hunter and Dell Jones. I mean, Dell Jones is just a spark plug, and Dylan Hunter, talk about most improved player on the team. He's been unreal. If you guys have watched any of the basketball game today, you can hop in on there too. I see Corey with his Clemson-Carolina prediction, Clemson 27, Carolina 23. So we'll give ours, like we said, later in the show. We got a ton planned, a great show planned for you today. Will had to do a little dog duty over there on his end. I'm sure the dogs are calm all day, and then as soon as the show's about to start, they get a little excited.
Yeah, absolutely. It's they have to go to the bathroom. They have to go to the bathroom. Like us, they can't control it. So I wanted to make sure I didn't. They didn't do it while I was here doing the podcast. So it's better to let them outside. So sorry for the inconvenience there. But we had to make sure that was taken care of. Alex, big win for Clemson. Let's get to it though, because what this show's about is about a rivalry born out of hate today. And this is I think it's a good name for it, because so people can understand what I mean by that. This rivalry literally was born out of hate, because one man hated the University of South Carolina so much that he got another college so that they could do a better job at agriculture than the University of South Carolina was doing. And that man was Ben Tillman. And that's what he's the one that pushed for Clemson University to get started. And now the land was already granted to the state. It was Mr. Clemson gave it to him after he passed away. So it was already given to the state, but the state wasn't using it. And when Ben Tillman found out, hey, we got this land in the upstate we got this prime farmland and we can use this for agriculture and everything, he pushed it to get out of it, because University of South Carolina was doing a horrible job. And that's not just because he was saying it, because there was actual evidence at that time. They just weren't doing a good job in the agriculture department. And so he wanted to get rid of it. And so he did everything he could. And because of that, the University of South Carolina almost went bankrupt. So when Clemson started in 1889, the University of South Carolina went bankrupt, and they were done. Like, I mean, they were literally went from like a 5,000 students to 400. I think it was like 499, maybe, so you say 500.
And they went back to being a college instead
And they went
of
back
a
to South
university.
Carolina College instead of a university. They lost their university status because of it. And they obviously hated Clemson from the get-go because Clemson almost bankrupted them and left them for dead, if you will. And so this rivalry was born that way. It was born out of hate. This is one of the few rivalries in college athletics that has nothing to do with football. It has nothing. It has nothing to do. Football's just part of it and has added to the fuel. But it is the hatred comes from that just the two schools don't like each other, and it's as simple as that.
And I think that's part of the reason too why you see it kind of play out in other sports too. Like you see the hatred across the board. It doesn't matter if it's women's tennis or football. You know, when it's Clemson and South Carolina, there's hatred on the field. It's built in the DNA of every person that's born in the state. I know there's a lot of people going to both schools now that aren't from the state, and there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe they don't understand it as much, and hopefully they can get a taste of it this weekend because this is probably the most important or the highest stakes game in the history of this rivalry.
It is, and that's exactly what it is, Alex. It's I don't know, if we've ever seen one, get bigger. There's been some good games, and of course, Clemson can argue that the last 6, when they had that 6-year run for the national championship, it was huge. When Clemson had the 1981 national championship run, that was huge. Because if they lose to South Carolina, then they don't get to play for national championships. So
I mean, look 2 years ago. I mean, it's
2 years a perfect example.
Look too far back to see an example of that.
Right. So that game wasn't as big for Carolina as it was Clemson because of what was at stake for Clemson. Well, now this time South Carolina's playing for the same thing Clemson's playing for, sort of. I think South Carolina still needs some help, where I think Clemson needs a little bit of help, maybe, and maybe none, depending on tonight. Here in about an hour and a half, we're going to find out, what the deal's going to be there with the college football playoffs. Yeah, Alex, you're right. This game's got CFP berth at stake for both teams. It really does.
Yeah, and that's a credit to both programs. I think honestly, it's probably more of a credit to Shane Beamer and what he's been able to build this year at South Carolina, because at Clemson, that's been the standard, is to compete for national titles, is to compete in the college football playoff. South Carolina hasn't sniffed it, haven't gotten close to the college football playoff. So for him to be able to build his program, honestly, coming into a year where he didn't have a lot of expectations, and a lot of people were saying he was going to see the door at the end of the year, has them in a position with a freshman quarterback to go, play in the college football playoff, and they've shown that they can compete with anybody. So it ought to be a really, really fun one on Saturday, and there's going to be one fan base, like always, that's really upset.
There is, but right, they will, and this one will probably be a little bit more. By the way, this is only the 8th time in the history of the Clemson-Carolina rivalry that the two teams come in ranked. So this doesn't happen often. This is the first time since 2013 that both teams are ranked coming into this game. So this has got there's a lot on the line here. It's state championship, it's bragging rights, it's college football playoffs berth at stake for both teams. And here's the thing, Alex, Clemson's been here before. Now, maybe not these players, but I'll take that away. These Clemson players have been, because they played for an ACC championship just 2 years ago. So they have been on this stage before. South Carolina hasn't. You got to wonder, will that have any – because with the Clemson coaches been on this stage, they know it's a different game when you're playing in a playoff mode than it is when you're playing just a regular game, correct?
Oh, no, absolutely. There's a lot higher stakes. It's going to be interesting to see how both teams kind of adapt to it. A lot of players on this Clemson team, haven't been in this position either, where they're
from a playoff standpoint
in a win and get in playoff game.
Right.
I mean, this really is a playoff game, but I'm sure the guy that we're about to talk to here has a lot to say about this rivalry and what it means to people in the state of South Carolina. Legendary Clemson football player, legendary player from the state of South Carolina is Jerry Butler. And Jerry, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. We're excited to have you and speak with you for a while.
Hey, how you guys doing there? Thank you for having me there, Alex and Will. Where are you guys located in South Carolina?
Well, I am located in Clemson, South Carolina,
Okay.
where I live and cover the Tigers. And then, Alex, where are you at? Tell them where you're at.
So I'm from Travelers Rest, but I'm living these days in Colorado.
Oh, okay. I just got back from Colorado.
Awesome.
Yeah, I hang out in Breckenridge all the time. So
That's
man,
cool.
Good for you. Maybe I'll have to meet you up there someday.
All right, I'll hold you to that.
There you go. Well, Jerry, appreciate you joining us on the show here tonight. I know you got a busy schedule and there's a lot going on for you as well as us, especially with the holiday season coming now. But thanks for joining us. And I just get your thoughts on just this game every year. I imagine as a former Clemson player, you got to be pretty stoked every time Clemson-Carolina rolls around for you, right?
Oh yeah, you hit that on the nail there. I mean, it really doesn't matter what your season is, whether you have 5 games under your belt or whether you have 10 games under your belt. This is a whole different season changer for you. It's one of these games that you remember the rest of your life, just like we're doing right now. It's been 30 something years ago, and here we are. We're still remembering a particular game that happened that was unique to probably your grandmothers and your grandfather.
well, my mother and father, but Alex, maybe his grandparents. He's a little younger than me.
I'm sure 6 or 7 year old Will probably had some memories from that game too.
I actually do, and I'll get to that in a minute, Jerry. You'll appreciate my first memory of it. But I want to first of all just kind of go down. Obviously, I've written a history book at Clemson, and I remember when I was writing the book, talking to guys like Benny Cunningham and Steve Fuller, and so I remember them talking about the 1975 game in Columbia. That's the game where Jeff Grant throws a touchdown pass with 19 seconds to go. I think that would have been maybe your freshman year at Clemson, Jerry. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how much you can remember or if you were there during that game, but I remember Benny and Steve both telling me that they were really Coach Parker was really upset. And I think Benny said he actually threw a chair and said that would never happen again on his watch, that a South Carolina team would beat him. Can you recall that game and then that memory in that locker room?
Well, now, you know what? Unfortunately, the 75 game, I was on the freshman football team then. And so I just heard some things. But obviously, Coach Parker, his time at Clemson was short-lived after a lot of those incidents. And, hindsight, you never like to see anybody fired or relieved from their job. But obviously, that was probably the best decision that Clemson AD has made in quite some time.
So, but you remember then the next year, though, your 76 season then, right? When you guys – didn't you guys warm up like in the adjacent to the stadium in that parking lot over there, which now is a intramural soccer field?
Ooh, geez. Well, in 77, we went back down to Bryce Stadium there. And be honest with you, I do remember a little of that. It wasn't a lot, but I think they were under construction or something, some remodeling.
Okay.
Obviously, but it's a great place to play. It's a great stadium, but obviously, everything doesn't seem to work properly when Clemson shows up down there for some reason.
Well, I think that adds a little bit of flavor to the rivalry. You got to have some gamesmanship and a little shenanigans mixed in there too. Isn't that right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's funny because if I compare that, and I laughed about that when I went to the NFL, and obviously with the Buffalo Bills, the New England Patriots, they were in our conference, and it doesn't make a difference, man. Every time we're on the road, we play in New England, something happens at that hotel or in the locker room. The hot water doesn't work, or somebody fans they turn the smoke alarms on in the middle of the night, and everybody's got to get up or it wakes you up. So it's one of those type of situations, and I said, okay, once I'm in the league, I said, oh, that kind of reminds me of Bryce Stadium a little bit.
Well, I want to remind you about that game in '77. Obviously that's a game that lives in Clemson lore forever. Everybody remembers your catch, and we'll talk about that in a second. But what people don't remember is you guys were up 24-0 halfway through the third quarter, and everything's looking great. And then the Gamecocks come back and just have a comeback for the ages. Can you talk about what the feeling was on the sideline after you guys had dominated the game for much of the game, and all of a sudden you're losing now?
Well, yeah, we went down to South Carolina feeling like we improved every week, and it wasn't because we didn't work for it. I mean, in the off season, we worked very hard. Obviously, Coach Pell brought in a new program. We kind of add a few tricks to our offense, and we were trying to balance a little bit more between the run and the pass. And I thought we were doing a fair job of mixing that up. And so going into that game, it's just we were healthy. Guys were in shape. A lot of things were just clicking for us. As that first half, we kind of felt, okay, well, things are going our way. And we went up from that to 24 points after coming out of the half. And it was like 24-0. So it was, okay, let's just run this clock out with the run game, and let's burn up that clock and see if we can get out of here. But but that's how we were writing it. Obviously Carolina, they saw a different ending to this tale. Now I'm just going to give it to you. We had a couple of turnovers right there, but I'm one of those guys. I'm always doing that scoreboard math, like a lot of fans. I'm like, okay, we have this, they have that. All right, they need to get these men. I was pretty good at math, I was carrying my digits right, and I'm like, they got a little ways to go before they catch up, And then that 7-point kind of turned into 14 points. Those 24 points kind of now. I'm looking. Oh man, they got 14 points now. Okay, well, maybe we'll run this thing on out here. And before you know it, man, bang, bang, bang. And here they are. They jumped on top of us. And that was a sad feeling because I couldn't believe it. Everything was just right before us. Our bowl opportunity. Coach Pell had basically told everyone, hey, we win this game, we're pretty much guaranteed that we're going to wind up going to a bowl. Specifically, he was talking about the Gator Bowl, and so that was pretty important to us winning that game. And things turned real sour real quick. I'm sure you guys have seen and heard many of the stories there.
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of ask you about what happened after things started to turn there, and you started seeing did you see the No Cigar Today T-shirts and that kind of thing while you were at the game, and how that kind of motivate you guys on that last drive?
Well, this is something that you guys are the only ones I've ever even spent some time to even talk about. See, I, as a receiver, speed was something that I was very proud of. And I always wanted to be fast, and I always wanted to have, real solid hands. But one of the things that I would take with me sometimes if I'm feeling good, I'll take my Flintstone vitamins with me on the trip. So that particular week, I had my Flintstone vitamins. So at halftime, I said, you know what? Just in case they come back and I need them, well, I'm going to go ahead and pop a couple of these things here. So I got a couple Bam Bams and Dinos, and so
I love it.
So I popped those things at halftime, and so I don't know. I got out there and I was really amped, and we weren't really throwing the ball a whole lot. The second half, we were running the ball, so I was trying to knock guys out. Well, obviously we took this thing out to the last minute. We got in the huddle, And Fuller, he took over and he says, guys, we trained for this, we're prepared for this, we're gonna go win this game. I said, okay, let's go do it. Well, hey, to take the top off of them, obviously what we were looking at is this. We had Obed Areri. Obed could kick the ball, a field goal way past 50 yards. So if things didn't work out, we got a chance to possibly kick a field goal and tie it up and go into overtime. So that's the plan B. Obviously, plan A was let's just go ahead and take the top off of it and win this thing. So Steve, he turned into a gunslinger. He hit Rick Weddington and Dwight Clark, down the middle, and obviously we moved the ball down. It's okay. Well, we're within field goal range here. Obviously, he called another pass play, and I was feeling kind of amped. So I guess we just went, and I guess the rocket boosters just took off and went up and got it. But there was more to getting those catches. That wasn't just that game. There was a lot of training that took place, and I say that because that's why you would see Dwight Clark later on in the National Football League have the catch, as well as myself in college. But it really came from our training techniques and preparing to catch really high balls and come down with it.
Well, I remember as a kid, you had some pretty doggone good catches in the NFL as well, my friend. I remember watching some of those games. So it wasn't just Dwight making great catches. So you're right. But going back to the catch, though, so I talked to Steve Fuller, doing the book, and he told me that he admitted, to me at least, and he said, I was trying to throw the ball away. He's like, I didn't really even know Jerry was over there. He's like, I was just throwing the ball away to get it out of bounds because he said he wanted to save another play. So I think at that time there's still 30 seconds to go. He didn't want to take a sack or something like that. So he said he was throwing it away. He said next thing he knows, he looks up and everybody's cheering, and he's like, "Well, okay, what happened?" So is that how you remember it too? Because he's like, I didn't even know Jerry was there. He said he saw you catch it.
Oh, like I said, because I don't want to take this to my grave or anything, but maybe a lot of people know it. I don't talk about it a lot, but nobody likes to be wrong as a player. But I'm gonna be honest with you, it was so loud in that stadium. I don't even know what the play he called. I was being honest, all right, and I'm like, but he usually repeats it twice, so. He said it the first time, and then he said, and everybody started breaking out the huddle, and I'm like, I don't get it. I don't hear what's the play? What's the play? I knew it had because some of it was long enough the way I knew it was a pass play, but I didn't know whether I had a post or a corner or what. And I was being honest, and I got caught right in the middle. And I'm sure it confused Carolina too, because they probably thought, well, we haven't seen this route on film. So it was just if I said, oh, I think I've got. So I kept looking back to see what the quarterback was going to do. And I said to myself, like, either I have a post or I have a corner. And I was right there doing the post. I said, oh, I must have a corner. And I go to do the corner. He throws the ball. I said, oh, it must be a post.
So you twisted around.
And the Flintstone bite, the Barneys took off. The Dinos took off, and the Bam Bams, they went to work.
What was your vertical on that? Because I still have never seen a vertical like that in any college or pro catch, because, you were off the ground, like you were levitated. You're literally almost parallel to the ground when you're grabbing that ball. I've never seen anything like it in my life.
Well, thank you there. And like I said there, we Coach Moore and at Clemson, part of our training was to be able to make the difficult catch. And basically it wants you to be able to jump, relax and high point the ball and just float to the ground, not really thinking about the ground, because that's going to hurt, when you land. So you don't want to focus on that. But I think is the ability to just jump as high as you can and arch your back and just float to the ground. And it happens so fast. But the only thing was the difference between a game and practice is that there's usually a pit that you're jumping into. But unfortunately, when you're in a game, it's only the ground or your opponents there to greet you with a shoulder pad or a helmet. But this one, it worked out, and it's amazing how God's love and guidance allowed something to happen like that, because I really think that allowed us to get on the national stage, and we were earning every bit of that. And it really gave us a fuel to go into our senior year, and it brought a lot of professional scouts into the Clemson area. And as a result of that, many of us were drafted in the National Football League, and we haven't looked back as a university or the pipeline to supply Clemson, to supply the National Football League with high caliber athletes.
Yeah, Jerry, you mentioned kind of the unscripted nature and kind of divine intervention that it took to make that play. Do you feel like that's just kind of how it happens sometimes with football? It's like those pivotal moments that everybody thinks about so many times. Turns out they were kind of happy accidents, and training took over. You feel like that's kind of a common thing that happens on those magnificent plays?
I don't think they organically happen without guys putting in the work. The game is just a result of the hard work, the discipline that takes place throughout the week. To go from uh, college is nothing like the pros. I mean, you colleges, you have your classes that you have, so your coaching staff, they don't have you very long, and at that point in time, a coaching staff could almost put in 40 hours a week with their athletes, with film study and training, whatever. And the NCAA, they stepped in and says, oh no, we're not going to continue to do this because these are student athletes. So they put in the rule where there couldn't be any more than 20 hours. So by doing that, that included the game. So I think that the skill levels of the guys, they just didn't get the training. Even today, I don't think they get the training that we got while we were in college. And when you went to the pros, I mean, that's all day. You pack a lunch, you're there all day. It's football all day. So you get to really, really grow as an athlete through your education and understanding of the game itself. It just takes it to a whole nother level. So it allows you to excel. And Clemson athletes continue to do that even this day.
Jerry, you mentioned earlier, you talked about what that catch meant to Clemson from that point on and what it did for the Clemson football program. At the moment, though, when you catch it and you guys win the game, can you take me your thought process at that time and just did you have any inclination what it was going to mean for Clemson, for this rivalry, and on down the line what it's meant? Because it's called the catch in Clemson lore for a reason.
Yeah. Um, well, I without knowing how much time we have, I can only, if I could preface it just a little bit. Um, my whole life has basically been in the middle of prayer, and even winding up at Clemson, I had no business at Clemson. To be honest with you, um, that just it just stumbled, and a lot of people will see that they don't even see my name on the roster in my freshman year. I'm nowhere around, but what in that prayer was I wound up at Clemson because I went there to run track. I wanted to be close to home because my mother was suffering cancer, and I didn't want to go to a school far away. So I was blessed enough to be there at Clemson, and so I prayed a lot. And so, long story short, a recruiter from the University of Georgia, and I didn't know until this summer how this happened. A recruiter from the University of Georgia reached out to my family and wanted me to leave Clemson to come to the University of Georgia to play football and run track. And I decided to do that. But how that happened was my baseball coach went from high school, went to the University of Georgia, and he had put in a word for me. And so they reached out to try to get me to leave Clemson and come there. So I decided to leave Clemson and go to the University of Georgia. And so at that point in time, the AD at Clemson decided I wasn't leaving Clemson. I would just be put on the football team. And so that's how I wound up, kind of on the team. So with that story, after Charlie Pell became the head coach, I went to Charlie and I told Coach Pell, and we weren't doing that great. And I said, Coach, there's something missing on our team. And he said, what do you think it is? I said, we don't pray enough. I said, we don't pray over our food. We don't pray at all. So, so lo and behold, the week later, he said, well, I'll think about this. All right, so he surprised me. We played Maryland, and I think we played them at home, and we lost to them. We almost beat them. Mm-hmm. So we go to Georgia, and that's when the whole cigar thing happened. And so he tells the team, oh, hey, Jerry Butler has something he wants to say. And I wasn't even expecting it. And so I explained to them about we should, bless our food and all this stuff, pray for the game. So we prayed. So we go and we beat Georgia, right? And so anyway, we get our cigars. So now Charlie, he's kind of caught in a place. He said, oh, well, I let this happen. So, well, maybe I'll do this again. So every time he would do it, we would keep winning. So all these things kept positive happening while we were starting to do that. And so I think the catch was just an extension of that commitment to continue to pray. And that became the foundation of my life, was just, bringing prayer forward for guys to be able to take that moment to just be in peace with themselves and know that everything would be okay and the higher order has them. And ever since we started doing that, my life has just been a response to that. And I can go on and on, but that's basically what I believe was the catalyst.
That's awesome. So basically, you just told me that there was divine intervention in you making that catch.
I think so. I know there was some wings somewhere. But you know what? Then later on, I found out they were buffalo wings. That's what I went to.
There you go. I love it. Way to bring it back around. But no, Jerry, I mean, I know Clemson fans out there, they think about, like, obviously Perry Tuttle's catch, and they think about Hunter Renfro's catch because they were the national championship games. But without your catch, which is why I say, in my opinion, when people ask me what is the biggest catch in Clemson history or the biggest play, I always go to your catch because of what you said earlier. Because that catch, the first time the Clemson-Carolina game was on TV, you guys were, so everybody's watching you in the South. The whole entire people, everybody's turned on to ABC, was watching that game. Yeah. And you make a play that kind of woke everybody else to Clemson football. And from that moment, Clemson football changed the projection where it went 4 years later, winning a national championship. We all know about the 80s. We all know what Dabo has done with the program in this realm. It's just like since then, Clemson football, if you go and look at the success, it all started with the catch. And that, to me, says it's the greatest play in Clemson history, because without it, maybe none of this other stuff happens. What do you think?
Well, I'm gonna blame it on Carolina again, because had they not came back from, if they had not came back on us, it wouldn't have been so loud in that stadium to where I might have heard the play and I might have run the right route that would have been the wrong route. But you know what? And I'm not I'm not crazy to know that I'm just one player out there. That takes a lot of linemen. It takes a quarterback, running back, everybody doing their job. But the thing is that Coach Pell was really good, and Danny Ford is that we win in the offseason by our training, our commitment to the program, showing up, going to class, getting our grades, putting ourselves in a position where we can be successful. All that stuff happened in the offseason because we went crazy, man, in terms of our training and getting ready. And by the time we started the season, that was just an example of our hard work. And that's something that I think set the foundation. I'm not exactly sure what Coach Sweeney does. I've been down there several times to visit, but I know that a lot of those guys came out of the Bear Bryant program, and those type programs that win, they're doing something special. and everybody's buying in to what they're doing. And I think that's what had happened at Clemson University. There was buy-in, and everybody saw the process, the formula, and we decided to unfold that formula, and we just plugged the players into the formula. And for those organic reasons, we're successful, and guys want to come there because now with Coach Sweeney, I mean, he has a all-in type program, and he doesn't mess around with the portal a whole lot because he has a system of bringing guys in and getting guys graduated and getting them out of there. I heard one time, I think he told a story about the NCAA was getting on him because he was praying too much, maybe with his players. And at the end of the day, he said this one story is that what parent would not want their child to be in an environment this positive? And he's absolutely right. There's families that are killing to get their kids into Clemson's program, and we're the direct benefactors of that success that's taking place during his tutelage there.
Absolutely. Jerry, I wanted to ask you about this rivalry a little bit more. Growing up in the state, you got to experience it in one way. Being a player, you got to experience it in a whole different way. And I'm sure you've experienced it in a different way as an alum. So kind of how has that rivalry progressed in your mind, and how are the different ways that you've experienced it kind of informed you about the importance of this game?
Yeah, no, Carolina, they play tough opponents all the time. I mean, I don't know why they play Wofford and we play Citadel at the same time. So I don't know what's that new kind of program here, the way you kind of rest up or something. But anyway, they're very competitive all year long. And if I'm not mistaken, they're like, I think they won 8 games this year, and that's SEC. That's pretty good. I mean, I don't care how you slice it. And also, Clemson, they're young. They still have a lot of young talent, and they're getting things done. I wouldn't want to play Clemson anytime because they're just a very competitive team, and even if they're behind, they're still ahead. Okay, in their mind, even though the scoreboard is one thing, they're not looking at the opponent. They just running through their process. And so, maybe a lot of things that Carolina is doing as well, but Clemson to me is a very young team, and they're still excelling and achieving at this level. Like, they're on a trajectory that they might see another national championship in the next 3 years.
Well, Jerry, me and Alex, we've been around Clemson our whole life. We're Clemson guys, but we never played, for Clemson. We never played in this rivalry. What's it like to play in this rivalry?
Well, it's just bragging rights. It just seems like everybody remembers it. I grew up in South Carolina, so I never left to go home like Georgia or Alabama in those places. I was always at home. And so and I'm from a very small textile town called Ware Shoals, which is down near Greenwood.
Greenwood,
yeah, and Anderson's nearby, Greenville's nearby. But even today, I mean, like I said, over 30-something years ago, I still have people reaching out to me, telling me, "Oh, I remember that game," or "My grandfather, you were his favorite player, and he talked about you," all these things. And so for me, it's just that I never want to lose to Carolina. I know sometimes it's impossible. It was funny because what was it? 2 years ago, which it was the last home game. I went to Clemson Carolina game, and I was so excited. I met the Bostics there, and we hung out, we laughed, and had a good time. And we lost to we lost that game.
Ended a 40-game home winning streak.
Yeah, we lost that game. I was so sad. So my wife was saying, "See, I don't think you should ever go to another game again because you take it serious." Yeah, I did.
It was Carolina. She's got to understand. That was Carolina. It wasn't just
I
any
know.
game.
Like,
It
come
wasn't
on.
just any game. You lost to Carolina, you know?
Hey, hey, well, I know. I went to Walmart. I had got all my fresh gear and stuff, you know. I had spent about $110 on stuff, you know. Well, you know what I mean.
I do. Yeah, we know what you mean. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
that's what's got to be fun about it, though, right? And just for you, like, how do you like look at this game every year as a guy who played in it, went to school at Clemson, you played in it, you know what it means to the state, to the Clemson fans in this state. What's the feeling for you at home, knowing there's nothing you can do about it? You just got to
I know.
watch it. So what's
You gotta
that
watch
like
it.
when? What are you doing? What do you feel like when you're watching this game?
Well, a lot of times, if that was, believe it or not, that was the first game that I had been to since I left Clemson. Because when I finished up as a player, I eventually went to work for the Buffalo Bills front office and then Cleveland Browns, because I came down to Cleveland Browns when it started up with Dwight Clark. He became the GM here, and he talked me out of Buffalo to come down here to help him get this team up and running. He basically said, I want people around that I know that work hard and that I can trust, and I'm trying to build something here. And he just stayed after it. I said, okay, Dwight, I'm coming. So I came to Cleveland and started working. But we always, obviously, him and I, when Clemson played Carolina, he'll be in my office, I'll be in his, and doing that. And so after I left here, when Cleveland Browns, I went out to the Denver Broncos, where Rich Tootin, which was our nose tackle, he was the strength conditioning coach. So he talked me into coming out there and helping. And so I went out there with John Fox and Elway, and we were able to take that team to the pros. But the funny thing about it was I was always putting Clemson players on the table. I'm like, here, you got to look at these guys. You got to get down there to Death Valley and get some of these guys on the team here because we're trying to win a Super Bowl.
That's going to happen with Clemson players. We know
I
that.
know. I had them all up there. He says, this guy can't be a 10.0, Jerry. We only on a 9.2 scale. I'm just saying. Man, Clemson players all grading way up here. I'm just saying. All right.
Jerry, after all that time away from Death Valley, despite the outcome of the game, what did it mean to be back in the friendly confines and to see Clemson, a couple decades later?
Oh yeah, I mean, I follow, and just to see that. Well, even with Coach Ford, when they won their first national championship, I was going around. I told you, you better watch out for Clemson. All right. And my good friend Perry Tuttle, I keep up with Perry all the time, and we talk today. But anyway, he says, I want to tell you something. Maybe you know, maybe you don't know. He says, I want you to know that they did it. He might have said Harvard. I forget. He was talking fast at the time. He said the business school, they talked about logos. And do you know that Clemson's logo was voted the most recognizable logo out of the top 4 brands of anything? I'm talking about with Nike and Coca-Cola. I said, really? He says, yeah. He says, so, we represent a mighty brand. And you and I and a lot of the guys helped put that brand on the map. That's just from the football side. We've done things. Obviously, I'm not saying basketball, baseball. They've done their share too. But he's saying just from a brand recognition that people can all over the world can see that helmet or that tiger paw and they'll know that it's Clemson University. So always be proud, always defend it, and always respect it. And so that's something that that's dear to my heart. I know where that energy comes from. I lived it. I've grinded. And between Clemson and NFL, I've got enough crutches here to last a lifetime. but it was worth every minute of it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I wanted to ask you just your thoughts on Saturday's game. It's crazy. I know there's been some big games in this rivalry throughout the years. The one you were involved in, we just talked about.
Yeah.
But this is the first time where there's some national implications on the line where the winner of this game, especially if Clemson wins it, probably going to the college football playoff or get that large bid, despite what happens in Miami-Syracuse game. And then the South Carolina is sitting right there with an opportunity as well if they win the game to get into the college football playoff. What's your thoughts on Saturday's game? Who do you think is going to win it and why?
Yeah, I think somebody sent me a chart. College football playoff, is that the one?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah,
and it has Oregon, Ohio State. Boom. They have us at 17. Is that right? And Carolina at 18.
Well, that's the one some people think it's going. That was last week's poll.
Oh yeah, okay.
So a lot of teams lost. So we think, Now, granted, we don't know if the mighty green dollar is going to help some other teams get in the playoffs that maybe they don't deserve to be. But we think Clemson and Carolina should move up with 5 of those teams above them losing last week. So we're thinking they should move up and be in position. But
hey, I mean, I think it's one of those things where I think if you let Clemson in that mix, that's one thing I can say that Coach Sweeney, he has a formula for winning. He's a very smart coach. He knows how to motivate his players. He knows how to respect and motivate his coaches. He knows how to prep. I mean, everything that he prepares for all year long in terms of his recruiting, he's recruiting guys for specific reasons. And that's the ones that you don't have to pull out the choke to crank him up. He just pull the cord and they're ready to go. And that's kind of what he's been doing all season. Sure, there's a couple teams that played them tough. And who was that that we lost to was
recently?
Louisville. Yeah. So, I mean, every once in a while, you're going to get in those situations. I know, but sometimes that builds character on your team too. And that kind of takes, the arrogance down a little bit, from players. Sometimes you can think, oh, okay, just because I'm wearing this tiger paw, things are just going to happen for us. But it also reminds you that you got to keep working for them. And things to me, since we've created the portal, that's kind of a leveling field. And so when you have something like the portal where guys are pulling talent left and right, now there's parity. And when there's parity like the NFL, mistakes are the ones that really beat you. So if you start focusing in a little bit more on the mistakes that you make, and as a team, as you can kind of get those mistakes ironed out, I think as you go down the end of your season and into the playoffs or the bowl game, it's going to pay dividends for you. And Coach Sweeney has a formula for dialing guys up and correcting mistakes. And that's why he's successful as he is as a head coach.
Well, Jerry, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. And it was great reminiscing on the great role in Clemson history that you played, and getting to hear a little gospel in there too, which we always love on this show. So thank you for taking the time to speak with us today.
All right, brothers. Thank you guys for having me and thinking of me.
All right. Thanks, Jerry. Go Tigers, right?
All right, man.
Oh, that's awesome. Jerry Butler, former Clemson legend, wide receiver, the author of The Catch. Just great to have him on the show with us, Alex, and just, hearing a little bit about Clemson history and reliving it again with him.
Yeah, I mean, with a Clemson legend, I mean, a guy that had a 9-year NFL career that included a Pro Bowl, obviously his front office work. Talk about a guy that knows how to evaluate talent. Jerry Butler's the guy to do it. So when he talks about the future of this Clemson team, particularly those young players, I think you can take him at his word because he knows how to evaluate talent.
The only thing that was bad about it when he said he worked for the Cleveland Browns. Other than that, it was fine. I didn't go there. I just said I'll keep it. I won't go.
I thought about it. I had a hair trigger to reach back and grab this thing, but I didn't do it, and it'd be a bad week to do it too. So
right, considering that's what I'm saying, they beat us, so that's why I wasn't going to say anything. So there was nothing I could say, but no, just great. It was great having him and just what he meant for Clemson, and I'm glad he said what he did when he said, like, after that catch meant so much to where the program went. That's why I say it's the single biggest play in Clemson history, because without it, there is no Perry Tuttle. There is no Hunter Renfrow. There is those moments that we know his had to be first because it came first. And what it meant for those people that don't understand, in 1977, Clemson had not been to a bowl game in 18 years, okay? There was only like 13 bowl games in college football at the time. So if you got to go to a bowl game, it was big time. This was the first time the Clemson-Carolina game was ever on television. And Jerry makes that play where everybody around the country sees it. And they see Clemson winning this game and how big it was. And it really allowed Clemson to take off on what they did in the 80s. This game and that team, that 77 team, was huge for Clemson football. And people need to understand that. And that's why I go back to say that. And I'm very adamant about it. I'm like, without Jerry Butler in the catch, there is nothing else that's happened because he set it all up. That team set it all up. That team is the single greatest team in Clemson history because of what they did for Clemson football going forward.
Yeah, and just the fact that, the catch probably shouldn't have happened. Like
knowing that, I didn't know that story.
Clemson's up big. He runs a no route, basically. Just runs down route. The field.
Right.
It didn't know
not a go route, a no route.
Didn't know if he should run a post or a corner. Kind of ran nothing, and then just makes.
Steve Fuller was throwing the ball away.
I mean, what a play, and what a way for it to happen. And that's kind of why I asked him that. I'm like, it seems like all of those moments in sports where you have like the biggest moment or this biggest sensational play, it's always because something went wrong. It's never like drawn up to go that way, because how could you draw up that catch?
He mentioned the catch, Dwight Clark's catch in the NFC Championship game in 1981. I remember watching that live like yesterday, and Joe Montana years later said that he didn't think Dwight could make that catch, so he was throwing it away. It was a run option right pass. And Joe Montana says, I'm throwing it away. He says, that's why the ball was thrown so high. He said, I didn't throw it because I thought Dwight could go get it. He's like, I was throwing it up that high because I was throwing it out of the back of the end zone. Next thing I know, Dwight's like jumped up, came out of nowhere, and just snags it out of the air and catches it and keeps his feet in bounds. And, it's a great catch. And they win the game because of it. And it's just a situation where he's just trying to get rid of it,
Yeah, I think we need to bring back the rivalry cigars too. I think that needs to make a reappearance. Now, it would be kind of hard now because you can't get tobacco unless you're 21.
Well, it wasn't.
Which probably throws a wrench into the plan.
Right.
But I mean, that season, it was every game.
Right. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. It wasn't just the Carolina game. It was a tradition that, and probably, I think it was an NCAA violation. I think Clemson got in trouble for it later on. I think that's the way the story goes, that Charlie, because what happened was, because the team cannot buy players anything. Well, they were driving back from Athens on the bus, and they're heading to Clemson, and they're on one of those back roads coming from Commerce, Georgia. And
that probably don't look too much different today than they did in 1978.
They probably don't. And there's this gas station on the side, and Charlie Pale says, "Hey, stop the buses." They stop the bus. He runs inside the gas station and buys cigars for the entire team and passes it out to the entire team, because they just beat Georgia for the first time in Athens since 1914. So you can imagine that was a big deal. So that's why he did it. And then they said, well, since we did that once, we got to do it every time. And I love the story Jerry adds on to it. They had to pray every time because Jerry prayed before the Georgia game and they ended up winning. So Jerry had to pray every game after that. And of course they ended up going and, going on that 7-game win streak, and then later beating South Carolina. And they almost beat Notre Dame. I mean, people forget that year, Joe Montana, if it wasn't for Joe Montana and leading Notre Dame back from a 10-point deficit, they would have beat Notre Dame that year too. So,
Another game that season that put Clemson on the map was that Notre Dame game. Even though they didn't win, that made Clemson again go on the national spotlight, and they went toe to toe with the blue blood. So there are so many of those moments in the history of Clemson football. That's why everybody needs to buy Will's book, The Hidden History of Clemson Football, which may have gained a new chapter today.
It did. I didn't know about the Flintstone stuff. That's new. Jerry did not tell me that when I talked to him last about the catch.
Yeah, so that was Bam Bam. Yeah, just so many great moments in Clemson history that shouldn't have been, where little old Clemson went toe to toe with the best, and now in this current age of college football, trying to get the opportunity to do it again with a win over the Gamecocks this weekend. That'd be possible.
Alex, and that leads us straight into this. And please, if you guys are out there, I know you guys are watching, if you could, give us your favorite Clemson-Carolina memory. Do that. Give us your favorite Carolina Clemson memory and your score. We got about another 15 minutes or so that we'll be on. So we'd love to hear from you and get that. So please, throw it in the comments and let us know. But Alex, I'm going to ask you, buddy, what's your favorite Carolina Clemson memory? Not your least favorite. What's your favorite?
Yeah, you definitely remember the least favorite. But for the favorite, I got to go back. My favorites aren't going to be as good as yours because I wasn't a kid in as great of an era of Clemson football as you were. But mine was probably the Buckholz kick in Williams-Brice.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching that game. Yeah, we went to one of my dad's friends' houses to watch the game. And I was
the only time the rivalry ended on a kick, by the way.
Yep. And I was a little kid. So we're watching the game on the TV and the kick happens. And, I'm sure there were probably some adult beverages for the adults or something going on there. We were at a golf
your
course.
Daddy, he wouldn't. No, he wouldn't.
My dad would never. But we were at some friend of his that lived on a golf course. And there was a neighbor across the fairway that had a South Carolina flag hanging from their back porch. So all the guys in the room decided it would be a great idea to run across the fairway and get the flag and plant it in the bunker. so they took the flag off the back porch and planted it in the bunker. So if you were at a bunker house Gamecock fan, I think the statute of limitations ran out on that. And hopefully the cops, a Clemson grad, would think it's funny too. But that's my favorite Clemson-Carolina memory. My least favorite was the first Clemson-Carolina game that I went to.
We don't.
That one ended on a field goal, but in a bad way.
Yeah, we don't want to go there. No least favorite. This is a Clemson football show, so no least favorites. So I'm gonna go. Like you're right. I had some good memories, but my favorite one is the 1988 game against South Carolina. And that's the Rodney Williams game because Rodney came back after the whole incident in Columbia in 87. The I know Alex, you probably heard from your dad about what that was. And it was great to see Rodney Williams come back that next year and just play as well as he did in that game and literally just beat the tar out of them. But then, talking to my good buddy Levon and him telling me on this show a couple of years ago about Jesse Hatcher's, it made this game even more fun for me. I remember what happened, and now that I know what happened, it's even better because here's the story in case you guys don't know. You all remember Jesse Hatcher, the great inside linebacker for Clemson back in the day when Levon was playing and all those guys that had those great linebackers. Jesse Hatcher wore number 55. Jesse Hatcher was not a fan of Todd Ellis, who was the former South Carolina quarterback and was quarterback in the Gamecocks at that time because Todd Ellis they had that run and shoot offense, and when he threw a touchdown pass or whatever to Sterling Sharp, he'd sit over there and he'd do this right here with the guns. He'd be doing the guns. So Jesse Hatcher, because he was mad for what happened in 87, and he didn't like the whole gun stuff they were doing to Clemson and stuff like that year, he got a poster of Todd Ellis doing the gun thing. And he left it and he put it above his bed. And he looked at it every night. And Levon was his roommate. And Levon was like, what do you got that up there for? Why are you putting that up there? He says, that's my reminder for next year. So when they got into the Valley and they played that game, there's a play, I think sometime in the second quarter. Todd Ellis rolls to his left and Jesse Hatcher blows him up. It's one of my favorite plays because I just love defense, and he just blows him up. He depletes him. I mean, he literally just Todd Ellis gets depleted, fumbles the ball, just similar to what you saw this past Pitt game with T.J. Parker doing to the Pitt quarterback. Todd Ellis had no idea Jesse Hatcher was there. Didn't even see him. And when he hits him, he drills him into the ground, and he gets up, and he's looking over Todd Ellis, starts doing the gun stuff to Todd Ellis. Well, the football's sitting right beside him, and Levon is like yelling at him, Jesse, get the football. Because he's too worried about doing the gunsling and stuff. And luckily, another player was able to land on the football, and Clemson got the ball, and they ended up going. I think Rodney scored a touchdown on the next play or whatever. But it was funny because if you go back and watch it, and you can, it's on YouTube, go back and watch it. Jesse Hatcher, right when he blows Ellis up, the ball's laying right on the ground beside Ellis. It's a clear fumble, and he's over there just doing the gunsling and things.
Oh, man.
Great. It's great. So that's my favorite memory, just because of Rodney. But then Levon, to tell that story to go with it, just makes it even better. And that's why that game is my favorite memory. I like to see some of the fans out there if they got some favorite memories.
We got Corey Bryant right here, the 2014 Deshaun torn ACL game to break the streak, and that was the first Clemson win over South Carolina that I'd seen in person. So we had season tickets as when I was growing up, but we got them through somebody else, and that game's tickets were always much more than the other games tickets, and the person that got them for us liked to keep them. So I didn't get to go to I only went to two. I went to the one I mentioned that we're not going to talk about, and I went to that one, and that one was pretty great. Also went in 16, which was really good.
Even better, yeah.
Clemson Deshaun more than made up for the one that was a bad memory for me when I was in high school.
Yeah, Deshaun will forever live in lore too, because he has a torn ACL, and I've never seen anything like it in my life, that an athlete could come out there. And, that was a different Deshaun. And what I mean was he was so hungry to succeed. And it was just different than what we've seen in the NFL with Deshaun in the last few years. And maybe he comes back from this injury and that Deshaun comes back. I hope he does for his sake. But I remember that game because Deshaun was just so determined and he promised Dabo, and I remember him coming in and saying it, like, I will never lose to South Carolina. And he played in that game so he can never lose to South Carolina. And I'm not saying they would have won that game or not, but when Deshaun played, you could tell that entire team was in. They were in the zone at that point, and there was no – South Carolina didn't have a prayer.
That's also a great Clemson Insider reporting story too of you guys kind of broke the news, and then people kind of came at you on the torn ACL, and then
we broke the news Georgia Tech game, and that was we won't go into that, but that was a let's just say we ended up being right and everybody else was wrong, and so people should just listen to our reporting to begin with. But anyway, we'll keep it there. We got Justin. Yeah, Justin.
Get out of here, Justin.
This is a Clemson show, Justin. We appreciate you, but this is a Clemson show. You can go to the Believe in Carolina football show if you want to throw that on there. We won't throw that one up there. So yeah, just a I guess if I had to say what was another memory, Alex, what's another memory that would be good?
Man, there's a lot from when I was in college. I mentioned that 2016 game where Clemson really jumped on them and kept the foot on the gas pedal. Another one would have to be in 2019 in Columbia. I was walking in. Will, I don't know if I told you this is in 2019 in Columbia. I wasn't working. I went as a student and walked in the stadium with my good buddy Charlie, who you should go see him at the Shepherd Hotel in downtown Clemson. But we walk in and they're handing out the little rags like they hand out down there in Columbia. So they hand us the rag, and Charlie said that he was going to use the rag in the bathroom, and the ushers that were handing them out thought it was hilarious. So that was another good one. I also lost my favorite sweatshirt at that game too. I left it in the stands and came back and it was gone when I went to the bathroom.
Yeah, I guess another one that would stand out to me was Charlie Whitehurst's, getting the fourth win. And that was, that was a very good Carolina team that year. A lot of people don't remember that probably, but Steve Spurrier had done a good job coming in that year and getting the Gamecocks right. And they were coming back off Lou Holtz had retired that year before. And a lot of people didn't know how good they were going to be. He ended up winning 7 games that year. They were ranked, I believe, in one of the polls, I think they were ranked going into that game. And it was a good game. It was a hard fought game. Clemson, that was the first and 35, I believe. They ended up, or the third and 35. I can't remember what it was, or third and 25 maybe. And Clemson ended up getting a first down on the winning drive and going down and winning 13-9. But the thing that was good about it was, and there's a picture, we had at Clemson Insider. So when Charlie made it's fitting. Charlie made the first down, and Clemson ran a bootleg. Charlie rolls out, gets the first down, and as he gets up, he just points like that, and he just gives because that was it. And it was like, then we got that. I still remember it like yesterday. My good buddy Rex Brown getting that picture of Charlie just pointing the first down, and that was 5. And his hands got this right. It's got all 5 fingers. So because he was 4-0 and everything. So it was kind of fitting.
I had that Greenville newspaper cover hanging on my wall as a kid. That was one of my Christmas presents, was the laminated newspaper cover.
Charlie doing that.
Tigers do it again with Charlie holding it out. And
it's amazing. He's still the only quarterback in the history of this rivalry to be 4-0, regardless of side. It doesn't matter if he played for Carolina or Clemson. Regardless, he's the only quarterback on either side to be 4-0. And this rivalry is 121 years old. That is amazing that stat's out there. That's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And, this kind of transition us, Justin, getting back into good graces, say likes hearing other perspectives. We appreciate that, Justin.
We do appreciate that, Justin.
We're
glad you're watching and listening, buddy.
We are. Don't actually get out of here. We were just saying we don't want to talk about that comment that you left of your favorite game.
Right, correct.
But how do we think the game's going to go? And this kind of transition us into this last portion of the show where we kind of break down the game. And we mentioned the high stakes. Will, what do you think are the keys for both teams coming into this game? What do you think the keys are for Clemson to win? And what do you think has to happen for South Carolina to win in Death Valley on Saturday?
Listen, I know South Carolina fans probably don't want to hear this, but it's true. This is the best offense they faced all year. Just as I know Clemson fans don't want to hear this, but it's true. This might be the best defense Clemson's faced all year. And that's counting Georgia. With that said, I think Clemson's offense and South Carolina's defense are going to cancel each other out. I think they're each going to get their own. They're going to make plays. They're going to do things. This game is going to be won or loss. Clemson's defense against South Carolina's offense. Both of them have been inconsistent. Both of them at times have shown greatness, that they could be unbelievable and unstoppable. And both of them at times have looked like crap. And let's just be honest. And that's just the way it is. Carolina's like, what are they ranked in total offense nationally? 58th in total offense nationally. What is Clemson ranked in total defense nationally? 49th. About the same. If you flip it the other way, you got Clemson ranked 6th in the country in total offense. South Carolina ranked 13th in the country in total defense. So that's about the same, right? So I think it's going to be won when South Carolina, this game's going to be won or lost, whoever wins it, when South Carolina has the football. What happens? Does Clemson's defense dominate? Here's a key thing to remember in this game. South Carolina loves, Alex, to create chaos.
Yep.
They love chaos. They love to turnovers, fumbles, sacks, and everything. Here's what people don't know about Clemson. So does Clemson. And you never hear anybody talk about it. Clemson's plus 13 in turnover ratio. Clemson's created just as many turnovers as South Carolina. Clemson has – the difference is Clemson doesn't turn the ball over as much as South Carolina does. South Carolina has fumbled the ball 21 times, which ranks 125th in the country. They've lost 11 of those fumbles, which ranks 126th in the country. Clemson, on the other hand, has lost only 2 fumbles all year. South Carolina quarterbacks, because of the way their game's played and how they do it, their quarterback likes to hang on to the football. They like to let him try to make plays. If Clemson's defensive line can ever live up to its hype, This is the game to live up to your hype, because South Carolina's offensive line is average at best, and they give up, what are they, 100 and what are they in tackles for loss allowed?
They
128
are
in tackles for
128.
loss. 85 tackles for loss, or 124th with 36 sacks. Now, some of that's on their quarterback, some of that's on them. Regardless, people are getting after their quarterback. He loses the football, he fumbles it. That could be the difference in this game. Whoever takes care of the football is really going to be the difference in this game. And I like Clemson on this edge, because as much as everybody says South Carolina likes to create chaos, Clemson creates more. And South Carolina, what they do on offense fits into what Clemson likes to create. On the other side, it doesn't do it as much. Clemson tries to take care of the football, and they don't put the ball in dangerous ways, which goes against what South Carolina wants to do on defense.
Yeah, I think that's, if last year's Clemson team was playing this year's South Carolina team,
it'd be South Carolina would eat them up.
It would be ugly. But because of the way that Clemson's progressed on offense, particularly in the way they take care of the ball, and almost all of that's on number two's shoulders. Again, knock on wood, because you know how sometimes this rivalry can kind of throw stuff like that out the window.
It can.
But given the way that Clemson's offense is taking care of the ball, I think they do have a slight edge in the game going in. Also, it's in Death Valley. Clemson's already lost once at home this year. If you think that protected the home turf isn't something that this team's thinking about going into the game, then I think you'd be sorely mistaken. They know what it feels like to lose at home.
It feels like to lose to Carolina.
Yeah, and losing at home at Clemson is probably a little bit different, because when you lose at home other places, maybe you got a couple people saying something to you from the stands. At Clemson, when you lose at home, you might have somebody saying something to you from a foot away, because you got people coming on the field after the game. So I think that winning on the home turf is going to be a huge motivator. Man, I'm just excited that this game's rolling around. It's my favorite week of the year every year. Until sometimes when the game doesn't go the way I want it to, it's not my favorite weekend of the year. It might be my least favorite.
Right.
But this is what college football is all about. And this rivalry doesn't get enough credit, but it's going to get enough credit on Saturday, because this is the biggest game in America on Saturday, in my mind and in a lot of people's minds.
Did you hear what Dabo said? Dabo says, I don't know why this game's not a college game day. Why game day in here? He said that on his coach's show the other night.
Yep.
So
he said probably because they're mad at me for not wanting to play the game on Friday.
Yeah, he says they're mad at me. ESPN's mad at him because they don't want to play a game on Friday.
Which they shouldn't play this game on Friday. This game should be on Saturday.
I agree. In Clemson, you can do what you want to in Columbia, but on Clemson, it needs to be on Saturday. Alex, just your thought. I think it's going to be a close game. I'm going to give Clemson the slight edge. I'm not going to say the final score yet. I'll do that on my prediction and previews on Clemson Insider. But I'm going to give Clemson a slight edge in this game. But I think it's going to be a very close physical football game. It's going to be one of the best that the rivalry's ever had. What do you think?
No, I think it's going to be, like you said, one of the most physical games. I can't think of a time when, there were just so many. I mean, I guess I can't. Those games in that South Carolina one in the 2010s.
Well, they were more physical.
Yeah, they were more physical, but a game where there were so many dynamic players on both rosters at the same time.
Yeah, gotcha.
So yeah, I mean, it's going to be fun to see the rivalry back in the spotlight. And I'm not going to give a prediction on the show because my predictions don't go very well.
Okay, then don't do it. Then don't do it.
I can make a spread prediction.
No, let's leave it alone. We'll leave it alone. We'll leave it there. We'll leave it there. All right. So that's it. So that's what me and Alex think. We appreciate you guys joining us. You can lay your comments on what you think after we get off, and they'll be on YouTube. I'll go check those out and see what you guys have to say. We appreciate you guys, or on Facebook, whatever. We appreciate you guys joining us today. We appreciate you joining us all season. I'll be back next week to talk about the college football playoff stuff and what happened in this game. I'll probably have a guest on as well to join me. Alex is going to be working. He's got to go to like a hard part. He's got to go to Las Vegas.
And I know I have to go there for like 2 weeks too. Like December 2nd to 15th.
Poor guy. I just feel for him. Anyway, so that's it for us today. Enjoy the game. Have fun. Remember, guys, it's just a game, so don't get too upset about it. Have some fun with it, and then let the winner have the fun that they want to have with it as well. It's Clemson-Carolina. Let's let it be what it is, and let it be fun. For Alex Dodd, for Alex Dodd, for Jerry Butler, I'm Will Vandervoort. We'll talk to you next time on Believe in Clemson Football.